September 15th, 2017. Well, I just wanted to show you a quick clip of the popcorn developing, the Dakota Black popcorn. Notice how these ears turn that beautiful purple, almost black color as they ripen. It's coming on strong. Gonna have lots of popcorn this year, barring any frost or major catastrophes, of course. But the real reason I brought you out here was to show you what happens when you improve nutrition and don't back it up with even heavier duty infrastructure. I know the sun's kind of not in my favor on this shot, but if you look, you can see that I was unable to get out here and harvest all the fruit off because I've been, oh God, so overloaded, busy. And by the time I got out here and started harvesting, even this post, which by the way is 4-inch diameter maple, and it's set about 18 inches in the ground, basically couldn't hold the weight anymore from the fruit load that's on it. And you can see there are lots of ripe fruit, ripening fruit, and there are still more flowers coming on. And so it collapsed. And so one of tonight's projects, I went out and cut some braces out of more maple. Those are 12-foot long, 3 to 4-inch diameter maples. And they're going to go in here as a 45 angle brace. So I'm going to have to rig out to that oak tree over there with I have a tree climbing rope which is rated for 8,000 pounds. So I'll hook up there, I'll hook a come along on this, I'll ratchet this back up, and then I'll set braces. And this post was not set in the ground, so it just kind of fell when that one stopped supporting it. It was just to help carry the weight across the span. And this other one over here, same thing. This one has not cracked in yet, but I know if I don't get all over it tonight or tomorrow, it will. And I'm a pretty strong person, and I gotta tell you, I can't even barely get this to budge. That's just one side, and it's just loaded with fruit. I finally did get my foliar feed potassium back in, and so I have been able to start foliar feeding again. Lost a lot of ground in not having the nutrition directly available to foliar feed when they needed it. But you can see by the new growth coming on here, new flowers setting, new fruit setting, no abortions of the fruit. So we'll carry on until frost here, provided I can provide enough physical infrastructure to keep things above the ground. Anyway, I thought you might appreciate that. That is what a tremendous fruit load does. That is what the proper biology and complete trace mineral and hormonal nutrition does to plants. So be prepared if you start into a high nutrition program to back it up with infrastructure that supports those plants. So I'd let you get a shot of some of these crimson beefsteaks as they're ripening, different various stages of ripening. These are just some of the most delicious beefsteak tomatoes I've ever had for making sandwiches and stuff. And peppers are coming along pretty good too. With the cooler weather we had the last couple weeks, they've slowed up a bit, but with the foliar feeds and the new growth, they should start cranking again. Next year I definitely will not put these as close to the tomatoes. In fact, I'll probably put them in a separate lot. I really need them to get the sun all day long, and I just didn't foresee these tomatoes growing to 8+ vertical feet. So even though I'm aware of what high mineral nutrition and that sort of thing can do for plants, I didn't realize just how big and crazy they were going to get. And I'll just show you a shot of a stem here of one of these plants. And that stem's about 3/4 of an inch in diameter coming out of the ground there. And you can see it just splits off into multiple directions. So yeah, powerful stuff. Lots of Roma's ripening, and yeah, I'm sorry I'm a little distracted. I have a million things to do today, but I didn't want to miss getting a shot of that before I do the repair. so that people get a better idea of just how much productivity and fruit load you'll get when you do it right. And I'm not entirely doing it right. You know, I'm maybe 60 or 70% of the genetic capacity of those plants. So in the future, I expect probably double that yield again. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. It depends on how well I'm able to tune myself in on nutrition. Real quick, I just want to show you a shot of this apple tree too. I do realize it has a lot of, I think it's called apple scab on it. But that's partially because I was unable to get out here in the spring and really get nutrition worked on. And over the past 3 years, I've been working this tree back up to health. But I just want to point out the tremendous fruit load that is on this. Let's see if I can get you in on that. Yeah. And so this tree is loaded with apples. I wish this tree was a little bit earlier ripening. This is like a late October variety, and I'm not sure what variety it is specifically. But I'm real glad I saved it, because I think we're going to have around 1,000 or 1,500 pounds of apples here. And that's nice. That'll be a good harvest. I'll probably do some dried apples, might do some hard cider, might do some regular cider. Pretty excited about that. Well, so here we are, post-repair, no pun intended. 12-foot braces in place. The lawn tractor had no traction for pulling this. I had to put the truck on it in 4 low, and I had to get my 8,000 pound test rope out and hook to it, and pull everything back straight, and then brace it up, lock it in, and then let the tension off. So now that that's all up, you can probably appreciate a little bit better how many tomatoes are actually in here. I've been harvesting these pretty regular up until the last week or so when things have just been so crazy and the weather has been against me. It's been wet and rainy, and if you know about harvesting tomatoes, you don't harvest them wet and put them in a box. You'll have a box of mold pretty quick usually. But anyway, I would say, looking at these, I would say there's probably easily 80 pounds of cherry tomatoes just in this section here that needs to be harvested. You know, hopefully I can find a market, because I've saturated most of my markets with cherry tomatoes. They go for good money, $3 a pound. So it's nice money when they come in, but I got to find more buyers, because, man, is there a lot of cherry tomatoes. That, or I'll make salsa or sauce, although I don't have much time for that these days. September 16th, 2017. Just wanted to do a very quick update. I know these plants aren't looking that great with the extended potassium deficiency. I am finally feeding them again, but you can't undo damage that's been done by a potassium deficiency, because basically the plant has pulled all the potassium out of the bottom leaves and pushed it up to the top leaves and fruit in an attempt to support the reproductive process. But I just want to show you that there's a massive fruit load on here this year. These are baby Romas. They're cranking. I went through and harvested a bunch of these off yesterday, and again today I have to go through and harvest again because there's more ripe. I took my mom about 30 pounds. And yeah, they're delicious, they're tasty. Yeah, I could go on all day about them. But I really just wanted to show, while we still had the light, the tremendous fruit load that is on these plants. And you know, every type of tomato here. These are the crimson beefsteaks. We had a little bit of uneven rain action this year. We had a dry spell and then we had rain again, so we're getting some splitting and cracking on some of them. But since that rain spell has let up and things have dried out again, we're starting to get some nice ones that aren't cracked. Definitely throws another vote in the direction of putting up a big high tunnel and being able to control the amount of irrigation they receive and temperature and all that kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, tons and tons and tons of ripening fruit on here. And I know maybe on the camera these don't look that big, but I have big hands, and you know, that's a massive tomato. That's, you know, 5.5 inches in diameter, I would guess. Same here. Every one of these crimson beefsteaks is pretty big. This is a small one here, and that's, you know, bigger than any regular tomato you get in the store for sure. These are delicious, by the way. I added a few of these to the last batch of salsa that I made, and it really perked up the tomato flavor nice. So I'll be doing that for the future batches as well. These are also some more Romas here. And I know it was starting to get dark last night when I finished patching up the collapsed infrastructure for the cherry tomatoes, so I'll just take you for a quick roll along them, and you can see that even though I did all that repair work, I still got a lot of work ahead of me, because I got to harvest all these and find a market for them. I'm already overloading my current markets on cherry tomatoes, so I'm going to have to add someone else who would like some. Maybe I'll contact the Culinary Institute. Anyway, just want to give a quick show of what happens when you get critical points of influence right, and complete trace mineral and hormonal nutritional support, and when you realize what nutrient deficiencies are and you start to understand how to address them, what you can do with foliar feeds to address that. And so at the end of the season here, we're looking at 8-foot high tomato plants on the crimson beefsteak and the large cherry tomatoes. I've personally never seen 8-foot high tomato plants before, so I am very impressed by that. And these Romas, I think if they were given a little bit better support and a little bit better soil initially, I think these probably would be 4 or 5, well, they're 3.5 now, so I would think they would be 5, maybe even 6 feet tall. They're more of a determinate type variety, so they're shorter and they don't get quite as tall. They don't keep vining out like the others do. But also the lower part of this section, excuse me, the lower part of this grow area was not treated as well as the upper part of it, because this I only started using this the 3rd year that I was here working the soil with trace mineral nutrition and foliar feeds and all that. And the stuff up here where these tomatoes are was started 3 years ago? No, 4 years ago in complete nutritional and hormonal support, and has been foliar fed and maintained and chicken tractored, and you can see the results in the yields, in the plant size, and in the quantity of fruit that's on them. So I guess we'll just take a quick look at these jalapeno peppers, and you can see how big some of those are. And I went through and stripped a bunch of these off for salsa. They weren't as hot as I was hoping, so I'm letting these fill out a little more and ripen a little more. And they're getting big again, like they should be. So they're doing really well. Slicing tomatoes are basically done. A few more fruit on there I got to harvest off, and then they're over. I'll be pulling those cages up and probably mow under. Not too hard. I wouldn't want to disturb that mulch. I'd like to leave that mulch in place and let it build soil for next year. These are more jalapenos up here. Some of these haven't been harvested as heavily, so you can see they're starting to get sized up again. They're doing pretty well. And I guess I'll take you down and show you the green peppers quick. I've been harvesting them pretty heavily too for salsa. I really got to let them finish and recover. I know I did one shot of that big, actually, you know what? I won't do that as a separate video. Or did I already do that as a separate video? Oh my, I can't keep up. Let's take a look at the green peppers. So here's the green peppers. I harvested quite a few of these off, and even early, in an attempt to fill my quota for making salsa, because they add a really nice flavor component to the salsa. But what I'll do here is take the camera down and try and find some peppers that are sizing up in here. Yeah, I stripped them pretty clean, I guess. But you can see there's a ton of flowers and fruit coming on still. There'll be a whole lot more in here over time. starting to, oh, I'm sorry, there's a couple that are starting to size up pretty good. There it is. You can see lots of fruit coming on this plant. As you look down that whole plant, it's just loaded with peppers. And definitely better up on this end. The soil profile is better up here somehow. Taller, more robust. But those are the King Arthur peppers, and those are my favorite peppers because they're highly productive. They get big and they ripen well without rotting. I guess I want to go to these California Wonders quick, and I don't know if it's our climate because it's not as hot here, and certainly it's been a fairly cool growing season this year, but these things just have not impressed me. They did get another shot of feed. You can see they're coming back and starting to throw flowers all over and doing better, but I find that these things just don't yield very well. This is the third or fourth time I've grown them from 3 or 4 different organic seed sources, and they just don't perform well. So I kind of kid with myself about them. California Wonder, as in, I wonder why they never put out any fruit. Anyway, I think it's more a seasonal thing than anything, because other years I didn't have the full trace mineral hormonal nutritional support and the understanding for that when I tried them, and so I thought maybe I was failing. But when you compare the jalapenos, the King Arthurs, and I'll take you down and show you some of the other peppers too, and their health and yield and vitality, and you see that these have pretty good vitality and health, but you can see there's a little potassium deficiency in here for sure for a while. But even even barring that, if you go down here where these plants were a little healthier, they just never yielded anything. Like here's like one of the first peppers coming on, and you can see we have other flowers setting now. But I don't know. I think it's a climate-related thing. If anybody knows more about California Wonder peppers specifically, by all means, please comment down below. I'd love to know more about them from someone who's more familiar with that variety. Excuse me. Anyway, here's some more of the King Arthurs. You can see this is actually starting to size up, but that'll get even bigger. Like I said, I'll include a clip. September 14th, 2017. Just harvested this red pepper here today. These are King Arthur peppers, grown in the High Bricks High Nutrition Program with complete trace mineral and hormonal nutritional support and foliar feeds and all that. This pepper weighs probably close to half a pound, and as you can see, it's quite large, about 4 inches across and about 5 inches long. Just want to point out how robust this is. This is what happens when you put the right nutrition in the soil, and when you handle plants correctly and put the right biology in the soil. Your soil will blow up, your plants will blow up, and you'll increase your yields and the quality of those yields. Not just the quality, but the taste, the flavor profile, and all the secondary plant metabolites which provide the flavors and the pest and fungal defenses and all those other pieces that come together. Just another example of what can be done with a little bit of the right nutrition. Actually, you've probably already seen that at this point in this video. These are cherry peppers. These are grown primarily for my friend Aaron, although I am very tempted to try a couple of those in a batch of salsa. I'll bet they would add a really cool flavor to it. Anyway, lots of red ones on here, lots of green ones on here, and these bushes too are loaded and they're tall. This cherry pepper plant is up to my waist. That makes it like 3.5 foot. You can see, excuse me, I just had to have that cherry tomato, that I did not stake these in here like I did the other peppers, and they're suffering a little bit for it, but they're laying over and fruiting and doing their thing anyway, and instead of trying to stand them up and organize them and risk breaking them off and breaking the fruit off them, I'm just going to let them finish like they are and harvest from them like they are. As you can see, there's clusters and clusters of them all through here. So Aaron, you got to get up here, man. There's lots of hot cherry peppers for you. So these are Tigerella tomatoes. I think I've mentioned these in other videos. And the flavor on them is fantastic. They're showy, and they probably would be less cracky in a little bit better soil. Like I said, this lower section is not as hot as the upper section. I love the flavor on these. I don't like the yield and size. This is like picking cherry tomatoes. In fact, if I do these again, I probably would sell these as a cherry tomato, because then I could get a more reasonable price for the weight. You know, if you do $1 a pound wholesale on these, it feels like it takes you all day to pick a box of these compared to a box of those like regular slicer tomatoes or the crimson beefsteak. And yeah, it's kind of tedious. But they are an excellent show variety. If you have a garden and you're just growing tomatoes for your salads and stuff, I definitely would highly rate these as far as the flavor goes. I mean, they really have an awesome, sweet, tomatoey flavor, very rich. But from a commercial standpoint, I probably wouldn't recommend growing these unless you're selling them as a cherry tomato. I may try that as a marketing technique for them next year. These are some cherry tomatoes that I actually haven't picked any of the fruit off of. Kind of a let them sit on the side experiment, see what they do. I've maintained the foliar feed program on them, and they went through the same potassium deficiency between you know, getting new nutrient in and getting the money together to do that. But other than that, I haven't harvested really anything from them. Just kind of wanted to see what they do. And here's a perfect example. These cherry tomatoes are exactly the same strain as the 8-foot high ones up there, or they were 8 foot before they crushed all the wires and everything. And they'll make it back to that, I have no doubt. So same variety. So that gives you an excellent example of soil here versus soil up there. Massive difference, massive difference. And these two cherry tomato sets, they're from the same flat, from the same planting, started with the same day, with the same water, the same nutrient, the same biology, exactly the same across the board, except for the soil that they're grown in. So that gives you a really good idea of how much effect you can have by really improving the quality of your soil, especially with complete trace minerals and hormonal support. There's just so many things that trace minerals do. They support enzyme cofactors. They help plants build secondary metabolites, which helps plants defend against diseases and insects. It also helps plants form complete proteins much easier, which means that they can form waxes and sheens on the surface of the leaf to protect them from fungi, saprophytic fungi that would only attack dead leaf tissue, even though everybody thinks that the blight is the problem here. It's a nutrient deficiency. If you fix the nutrient deficiency, the blight can't penetrate the leaf. If it can't penetrate the leaf, it can't attack the plant. If it can't attack the plant doesn't get blight. So disease resistance is very much a big part of trace mineral nutrition and hormonal support, and those have to be balanced and targeted. And yes, it does take some time to learn how to balance and target those. Anyway, these are also hurting a bit. I think they didn't like this grass mulch, and also they went through the same deficiency thing. In fact, these got cut off from feeding a little sooner than the tomatoes, because I was really trying to carry those through till I could get new nutrient in. But these are Habanero peppers, and they have an excellent fruity flavor to them. I can't even describe it. It's supposed to be around 350,000 Scoville units, so they're pretty hot. If you're going to do something with them, you definitely want to blend that into a large batch of something. If you're cutting them, I would recommend you wear gloves if you're not used to handling peppers. If you don't, and you get a little bit of that in your eye, I can attest to it. It feels like someone's stabbing you with a razor blade in the eye for about an hour. It is very painful. But they're an excellent fruity flavor profile, and if you like hot stuff, they're super hot. We added some to a small batch of salsa and added a nice flavor component to it. For some reason, these aren't all that hot so far yet this year, but we'll see how they do as the season progresses. More cherry tomatoes. Actually, yeah, those are cherry tomatoes too, I think. Maybe not. There's also it's supposed to be a Jamaican, is it Jamaican? No, a Caribbean pepper in here, which I've never grown before. So I think that's what those were, but they look almost like the size of regular pepper, so I'm a little confused on it. Cayennes here. These are awesome. Big, beautiful cayenne peppers. That's a cherry tomato, one of the large cherry tomato, next to the cayenne pepper for reference. So those are beautiful and massive. I've never seen cayenne peppers get that big before. Here's another one of those Caribbean peppers. I'm gonna pick another one of those and experiment with them some more. And then I had some white peppers down here, but I picked those all off. And once again, the plants are recovering from the new foliar feed, but they're not really back in full reproduction yet. And then these are a few more of those indigo cherry tomatoes that take absolutely forever to ripen, but they're beautiful and they're delicious. I don't know if I would recommend these for market unless you plan them for a real late season thing. But I definitely would recommend them if you grow in a garden. When they do finally ripen up, they have excellent flavor, and boy do they add a nice color to salads. They're like orangish red for the most part, but with a little purple, bluish hue on one side of them, so they really give a nice festive color. Alright, this video is getting a lot longer than I had planned or expected, but I figured I should just discuss everything that I can think of to discuss, so that I don't miss anything. And I guess we'll take a quick look at the Black Dakota popcorn. I was trying to dig up my yield information from 2013 on these, but I haven't found it yet. So I got the computer scanning files looking for that information while I'm out here harvesting. But in the process, I did a quick internet search looking for yield information. Couldn't find anything on that, but I did notice that all of the places selling the seed describe this as a 1 ear per stalk corn. And I just want to point out, we got 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. There's quite a few here with 2. And they're going to be good sized ears. That silk is really cranking out of there. These have had lots of good foliar feeds and drenches and all. And I just looked at the calc chart for the planting, and according to the calc chart, there's 1,800 corn plants in here. So if I got 2 ears per plant, it would be 3,600. I probably will have like 75% of that, so we're probably looking around 2,500 ears of corn. And I believe it's in a 38 by 60 space, so not a very big grow area. Excuse me, maybe you know, a little under 1,000 square feet. And I also did look at what they're charging for seeds, and I remember the seed being expensive when I originally bought this. Yeah, $32 for a pound of Dakota Black popcorn seed. So it definitely goes for good money. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Plus it's a delicious popcorn. Anyway, I think that covers everything I wanted to cover. And I guess I'll just let you have a look at these yellow wax beans again. You can see they're flowering out. We'll have yellow wax beans soon. Looking forward to munching on some of those. Thanks for watching Farmacy Seeds Network.